People here. And, so I'm going to declare a quorum since we have all 7 of our board members in person. Welcome to our special meeting. And, you know, there's 3 parts of a public session and then an executive session. So hopefully we have a little bit of grace tonight because we've never done this before. And so hopefully together, we can talk and communicate and realize that, this is the first time for this board to do something like this, and probably also for you. So please assume that we all have the best intentions in mind and that sort of thing. So, okay, so I think the beginning is, a public discussion with staff leading to about the collective bargaining effort. This is kind of an open discussion, I think I said in the email. We met with a few of you and your Ask Me person a few weeks ago. And so, this is just the time for you guys to, express anything you want to express to us. And if, like we did during that meeting, if we have questions, we can ask you, and any individual board members can ask, I think the board understands what staff is wanting, or some of the staff is wanting. So I don't think it's a huge, misunderstanding of what's needed, but there may be questions. So I don't know, is there any, do you guys have a particular spokesperson or person that wants to speak? And we let you open up the floor to you guys, and you can go, whoever. You're welcome to, you gotta speak loudly. Are we recording here?
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be, we got a new setup here. So just like in the Canyon conference room, so hopefully we don't have technical difficulties like last time. So can't control that, but all right. Anyone from staff? Okay. Can you just tell us your name and
Yes.
where you work and all of that?
My name's Cosmo Wright. I work at the main library here as a materials handler. I think we're not really picking exact spokespeople. It will kind of just be people come up if they have different things to say, and we'll kind of field questions as a group. But I wanted to start off with saying we did take some time to look at the new policy, though we know there probably won't be able to be much discussion between you and us on the specifics tonight. But we think, this shows like real movement from you guys, and we really appreciate, the time you put in to look and make your own policy compared to the one we provided you. And yeah, I just wanted to say that, and that we appreciate that, and we think the finer details might have to go back to the subcommittee, but we appreciate the time and the effort it took to create your draft policy that we have right now. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? The one you provided, Tom. It's really a proposal that he put forward individually as a board member. I think kind of as a framework of what we discussed. I don't want to speak for you, Tom. Go ahead.
Let's hear from them.
Yeah. Anybody else? Don't be afraid. Okay.
My name is Rachel. I'm a librarian at the Novo Library. I've been with BTL for actually 10 years, starting as a sub at the end of November. So just had my 10-year anniversary with the library. So I've seen a lot of changes, including to a much bigger Novo, which is pretty great. And I'd just like to point out that over this last week, we reached a full 80% of FTE staff signing cards. And we are at 67.5%, I believe, counting all substitutes. So a lot of the staff really support this and are really interested, and I just want to put those numbers out there for your consideration and say that this is something that a vast majority of the staff want.
Go ahead.
Can you just tell us what is on a card that people sign?
I don't have it with me. It's, yeah. Thank you.
I mean, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm Mike Brody, I'm an organizer with ASME. The card basically just says, yeah, I want ASME as my bargaining agent for the purposes of like bargaining, and then like contact info, like hitting out your email and your phone number and that kind of stuff. We kind of don't want to give you a card, is that okay? I know it's weird, but like, you know, it's just sort of like our sort of internal thing. So yeah, basically it says that, yeah, I'd like the union to represent me in the process of collective bargaining, so does that answer?
And it has Boulder Public Library District on it somewhere?
We identify ourselves as workers at Boulder Public Library District,
Yeah.
saying we want to be a member and be represented by ASME for the purposes of bargaining wages, benefits, and working conditions.
All right. Anybody else? Any questions? I think one of the questions, that Tom asked, and maybe it's good to ask again, was, are there any specific grievances or, heartburn that the organizing committee has with sort of, the benefits or the wages, or, we felt like we bent over backwards to provide a pretty good package. And I think, from our understanding in that conversation, it was like, no, you were pretty happy with that, but, you want the collective bargaining power. So I'll just open that, like, if you guys want to talk about any of those things or bring any of those issues up.
Well, I gotta get out.
I think I'll go for, sorry, Robin.
No, go ahead, Cosmo.
I think we really don't have any specific grievances with the benefits or wages or anything in the handbook or the budget as it stands now. We understand that it took a lot of work and number crunching to make what our options are as employees happen, and we know how well paid we are as library workers compared to other library workers in the state, and we really do appreciate all the work you've done for us. And it's pretty much just that we appreciate these benefits so much that we want to help protect them for the future, for future boards and future management, and just create a legacy of like a baseline that we would hope that carries forward and gives us some legal language to protect that going forward. And we also think that we can't really comment on specific hopes or wants from what we might want to get out of the collective bargaining, because we would need to do a bargaining survey and ask all of the staff that we're representing kind of what their hopes are for. Our purpose as an organizing committee is just to get a policy involving collective bargaining passed, so we can continue with that step. But we're not really equipped at this time to tell you what we think all staff would want out of this, or staff who have signed cards, because that would take more steps. We have drafted a bargaining survey, but we are waiting to disseminate that among staff until after we can get some sort of collective bargaining policy passed. So that's why we're holding off on talking about more specifics beyond the collective bargaining policy, because that's basically our purpose as an organizing committee.
So, before you go, if you're online and you want to ask a question or comment, just raise your hand, and that way Celia can call me. So like the survey, I guess that's something that ASME would put out, or is it did you guys come up with those questions? It's pretty technical to come up with how is the survey going to be generated?
ASME has assisted us with coming up with questions, but we had several meetings and formed our own subcommittee about discussing what we would specifically want to tailor for BPL staff. And it isn't about like what grievances you have now. It's pretty much what are the things most important to you in your current workplace, and give them the options to highlight that, just so we would know what we would talk about in collective bargaining.
Yeah, and we have some very specific points because I know we have an interesting setup with subs. I'm Robin Pope. I am a materials handler sub here, and I have been working here almost 10 years now. So yeah, as Cosmo was saying, I was on the committee that was drafting the survey that we're going to send out, and we have some questions that are specific, that are fairly standard questions that everyone would ask about your salary and benefits and that sort of stuff. But there are some very specific questions that we know not many places have substitutes, for instance, and we wanted to be able to have those sort of questions in there to make sure that it got covered, that everyone who works here gets covered and feels like they're being represented. And I wanted to tell you just a little bit about why I'm so supportive of the union. So I'm, among other things, a rather large process nerd. So I am particularly interested in setting up systems. And I want systems that will endure. So a system that will work not just for problems that we have right now, but for problems that we're going to have 5 years from now or 10 years from now. I want there to be a system so that if a staff member runs into an issue, they have a process by which they can elevate this, they can talk with management, they can get this addressed in a timely manner, they can have their input taken into account, and we have a solution that gets buy-in from all the staff. And I didn't warn people I was going to do this, but library staff. Who here has at least a bachelor's degree? Master's degree? Doctorate or law degree? You don't work here, Mom. You asked. I love you, but you don't work here. That's a lot of experience that you have on the floor. And we want to create a system with this union that means you are able to utilize all of that experience. That's just our educational experience. That does not count the collective centuries that we have of experience working in this community. And if our goal is really to best serve the community, you want the insights that the people on the floor have. And that's really why I want the union.
I've got a question for you.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like your grievances aren't heard, or that they're not timely, or that no one's listening to you, or what will change? Like, is that not happening today?
I think it takes a lot of effort on our part to bring these issues up and get them addressed. It's not that you don't care. It's that the process we currently have to address this is not serving its purpose.
And like we said, we're not coming to you hoping to get any specific grievances we have addressed. If we were upset, if we were saying, oh, materials handlers need this benefit, or archive specialists need this thing, and they're angry they're not getting that, this isn't the forum or place where we would be doing that. And so we believe that this is, like Robin was saying, this is us using our collective experience and talents to try to create a process of collaboration with the board so that we can, like Tom had said, I think in the October 22nd meeting, when talking about I believe you said a lot of staff have experience in different things, and maybe we could utilize some of that experience in other areas of the library. And so we believe that collectively that is the best way to serve you and serve the library with our experience.
Sorry, how does a union help that though?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Christine. I'm a volunteer coordinator here in February. I will have been at the library 6 years. And when we met with David a couple days before we went public, we talked about, we kind of emphasized this idea of democracy, that, you know, libraries are democratic institutions and a union is a democratic institution. We clarified, you know, David was like, well, you know, it's not really democracy here, the board makes the choices. And we clarified, a union is a democracy. We will vote for our union leadership, and those folks will then help represent us at the bargaining table in negotiating a contract that will be legally binding. And so part of this is, you know, during COVID, there were 2 layers of middle management vacancy. And for 6 months, David was my direct supervisor. So it feels slightly less scary for me to go and chat with David now because he was my direct supervisor for a while. But the reality is that's not the case for everybody. Like, it is intimidating to go and talk to management when you have a concern. And so a union is a way that colleagues together feel safe and can talk with each other and strategize together and then collectively bring our concerns to management. And so sometimes it's just about the reality of the power dynamics in a workplace and feeling that solidarity together to then bring that to management. And that's one of the big things that we want to achieve in unions.
Yeah, another point on that point, you know, it's also about being able to make sure that your concern isn't just you. Because I know that there have been a lot of times when you're there working and something goes a little bit wrong and you think, was that just me or is everybody having this issue? Having the union lets us have that structure by which you can say, hey, this went a little weird. Can I go and talk to my colleagues and see, was this just a weird fluke? Or is this actually a problem that keeps happening to a whole bunch of other people who also think it's just them? And that is something that needs to then be addressed.
And we're also thinking of it as, we know we currently have a really good sort of operating policy with the handbook. And things in that are helpful for both management, the board, and staff to navigate issues that may come up. But the issue with the handbook is that it says this can be changed at any time at will, with or without notice. So a union would be able to bargain a governing organization that helps both management, the board, and staff with any issues that may come up and put it in legally binding language so that everyone would know that this can't be changed, and this is a solid policy everyone has agreed on that will help govern all the issues that may arise in the future.
I have a question on process. So maybe this is more for the policy that we think about. I guess, so it sounds like you guys got together, you've come to us, you've got cards signed. And now I think, any policy we create has to be sort of employee organization neutral in the sense that, like, I don't know, you could have a different faction of groups. I guess the first question is, before we get to that, how what do you think about how would people that opt not to be in the union be treated? What are your thoughts about that? Like, what, not that will, I mean, we just want to know, I mean, we have to make a decision about it, but like, what would you say so the union, you get a union, you negotiate a contract, and that contract governs union employees. How about non-union employees?
So the way we operate, I believe every union operates, is you have a choice. You want to join the union or you don't. Either way, you're governed by the contract, right? So we always say that, hey, we'll have better contracts the more people we have in the union, right? But not, if people choose not to join the union, that's fine. I mean, that's their decision. They'll still enjoy the articles in the constitution, or in the contract, and enjoy all the benefits. We then would have a conversation like, hey, we got this because we're all in the union. Maybe you should be in too. But yeah, there'd be no, like, we're not going to discriminate against them. Obviously, they would enjoy all the benefits of the contract, etc. Does that make sense?
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, I'm Mike Bronio. I'm a lead organizer with AFSCME, working with these folks.
So your understanding or your thought would be that non-union employees would be treated, at least non-management union employees, like non-union employees would be treated the same as.
They would all be represented by the contract.
And you could ask Kim that question. I don't think we have a choice with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a collective bargaining.
We should table that. That's a legal question.
Yeah.
When we were with BMEA, people chose to pay dues or not, but they were all represented, they were all protected by the contract. And they chose to pay dues or not, but they were still represented by the contract, if they were eligible.
This may be a silly question, but when you signed the cards, did you all pay already?
No. And related to that, do you know what you would be paying?
Yes.
And we've made sure to explain exactly what the dues would be and when they would be paid to anyone signing a card, so there would be no surprises for that.
Can you tell us what that is?
Is that relevant?
I mean,
That's my question.
we're not really in the business of telling employers how much we're charging for dues.
But we'll be taking it.
You'll see how much it is. Yeah, so it's
Dues
for,
on to you, right?
what's that?
You're not gonna separately collect it, that's gonna come.
Oh, no, yeah, we'd love to come through payroll.
Right.
Yeah,
So
most
therefore,
definitely.
I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's $45.15 a month, split over 2 checks, so $22.57, I think it is, 58 per check.
That's for full-time.
Oh, there, that's for 40-hour plus. For 30 hours, it's slightly less than that. I forget the actual number. I can look at it. For 20 hours or less, it's a lower number. So it steps with how many hours you work.
It's a flat rate by number of hours, though. It's not like a percentage of salary.
Right. It's not a percentage. It is a flat rate by the amount of hours.
And does that go up every year, or is first year lower, second year higher, or what?
I mean, the dues rate is set by our convention every 2 years. So sometimes it does go up, but that's democratically decided by the convention. There's no like, hey, first it's this much, and then next year we got you. It's going to be double. Like it's something like that. No, it's set by. If you want to get into it, they sample all the contract gains over the country and sort of average it out and kind of get down to like, okay, so it's going to go up another 35 cents for these 2 cycles or whatever it is.
And so they're like locked in for 2 years, and then what happens if after 2 years everyone's like, oh, I don't see the benefit, I want to break up with you? Can they do that?
Yeah, they can. No, individuals can totally drop.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not North Korea. We're not going to hold anybody tied to a chair or anything, right? Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what's a fairly typical penetration rate of dues paying members in some of your other organizations?
Yeah, we don't really like to ask that kind of question. I can't say that these folks are very much behind this effort. Go ahead.
I will.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, no, I was saying, I thought they were chatting.
And I would like to add, we currently have more than a 2/3 majority of people who we have explained how the dues will work, who have signed the card after hearing that.
Okay, good. So you signed the card. Now I think the board needs to come up with a policy. We need it, or if the board wants to collectively bargain, I suppose that's something we can talk about later. In the policy that the board creates, I think, looking at what you guys gave us as a model, there'd be some sort of vote, and then I guess you would need to form some sort of representative group.
Can I?
Go ahead. Yeah.
cut in here for a
Yeah,
second?
go ahead.
What I wrote, and shared around, is the idea, I think we as a board have to adopt a policy on how we want to engage with collective bargaining that stands for anybody that comes to us. as a
Right.
group, right? And once we've established that, which part of establishing that, we're making a decision as a board, we do want collective bargaining.
If they meet the criteria.
Right. Right? So that seems to me, most of the work we have to do is for ourselves right now
Mhm.
versus engaging with the employee group.
And I think we need to be really careful. This draft may not look anything like a final version.
Yeah, that's
Just
why
to be
it's a
really clear about
draft.
that.
This
This
was,
is just a working draft.
this was for a discussion tonight.
Okay, good, yeah, I just want to clarify that.
I actually didn't realize it was,
I did neither, and that's why I want to clarify that.
not that there's anything in it that,
Of
like,
course not, but
in that sense, but
yeah, the
Yeah.
board has not had a single discussion with this document, just to be clear.
And we're happy to continue meeting with the subcommittee to provide feedback on individual issues rather than in like a big meeting like this where it can take up a ton of time, but to kind of work things out individually and quicker.
To Tom's point, I do think, and this isn't a question, but something for you guys to think about, a lot of the contours of discussion is probably gonna go into what the scope of the negotiations would be if we got to that phase, right? Basically, what would be negotiable and what wouldn't be negotiable, and nailing that down prior to entering into agreement is probably, again, I can't speak for everyone, but I'm assuming that's something the board's gonna wanna see, so probably start thinking about what things you would want to have in one of those categories first.
Yeah, and I think that would be informed by the bargaining survey that we would be doing with her. Sorry. No, it's just. Yeah.
because there's just some areas that we're, rather than we're spending money and doing this,
Right.
we're not gonna be negotiating.
Right.
It's gonna put limits on us as a board. So that's part of us figuring out our own policy first. What are the areas? Negotiating over wages and benefits and grievances? Yeah. Negotiating over the budget? No. So I think that's, if I understand it, we can find out that later more we engage, we get expert advice on it, is that we can craft what we see as a reasonable space to be in. And then they can react to whether they want to be in a contract negotiation in that space or not.
Go ahead.
So, not to change the topic, but a couple of other questions for staff, as long as we have them here. We touched on this briefly once before, but I don't know if we fully heard it. How did you guys go about selecting AFSCME, and were there considerations of any other unions to represent?
The previous year, we had also been talking about and working on organizing throughout 2024. And sort of like the board has run into now, we found that there were some areas to navigate and questions we had, and that you would have for us that we wouldn't be able to answer as just a staff organizing ourselves. So we wanted to enlist the help of experts to give us advice, just as you're getting advice from your labor lawyer about how this process would work when it comes to the legal requirements and what can be in a contract and how a contract is negotiated and how we do or do not have collective bargaining rights. So we talked with AFSCME, we also talked with CWA, and after some consideration and discussion among all of us, we decided to go with AFSCME based on what they told us and the prior research they had done into our specific legal situation as a library district.
Yeah, campus workers, is that
Communication.
communication workers? Okay.
But they do
That's
represent,
who's doing the county.
they're at CWA.
Okay.
I mean, yes.
County, that's easy to count.
Which is now back to a lawsuit.
I saw that.
I think as you all have pointed out and have realized, we operate in a funky space where we're not really one thing, we're not really another thing, we kind of end up in the middle. And AFSCME represents other libraries as well. So they have experience with that funky space legally and, from a staff point of view. And so we liked that too.
Am I allowed to make a comment? My name is Al. I only recently started as a patron experience, sorry, it's my previous job, it's relevant, but, I recently started here as a library specialist here at Maine Library. But I previously worked at Jefferson County, who also currently works with AFSCME. So I can confirm that, they have a lot of experience in marketing with libraries and all this stuff, and they do a lot of great work.
Let me clarify, Michael, you've not organized any other districts, right?
What's that? Sorry, Al Varela, A-L.
Like, you guys have not organized any other library districts in
I mean,
Colorado.
I don't think I'm qualified to comment on the breadth of all that we're
Well,
doing.
that's what Sean said when I met
I
him.
mean, that would make sense. I mean, the district system, I think, is sort of specific to Colorado. There are other, like, funding, libraries, as we know, are sort of under the gun in a lot of places, funding-wise. So a lot of places have gotten a little creative on how to fund them. So it's a little tricky in some places. Some places we have to get laws passed by, a city council or a county board or that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we've done all kinds of stuff. We've not done the district, I don't believe.
As far as I know, we would be the first district in the state of Colorado to unionize, which really just makes all of the fun legal questions no one's ever answered.
For the folks who didn't want to join the union, why didn't they want to?
The only people who haven't signed cards have not signed cards for fears outside of the library. So it's been honestly some immigration worries and worries of kickback from other organizations. But I don't think we've gotten one like, no, this doesn't sound good. I think it's literally just like other personal issues that they worry that this could be an impediment for, like visa status, citizenship status sort of thing.
And we have also gotten people who we talked about the cards with them and they said, well, I need a lot of time to think about this. And, for both the outside concerns and for that, we wanted to give them space and time. We're not shoving these in front of people's faces. We're having a dialogue and we respect any decision that each individual comes to regarding these cards.
One of the things that Doug and I learned was that these are just employees. Anybody who's a manager or someone who has 2 or more people under them, that's 38 of the staff.
Yeah.
We're not eligible.
It's actually fewer than that now. Because
Fewer, you say, Karen?
it's fewer than that because of a termination that happened.
Oh, okay.
The stats you were giving us, is that just of non-management employees or is
Yes,
that just?
correct.
Yeah.
Eligible.
So what do you think are just so we're all in the post meeting, what do you think of the management versus non-management? What the numbers break down? Do you know that?
What's the question?
The breakdown of the management versus non-management. It's okay,
Just
I
like
think if you don't
plain
know.
numbers across staff?
Yeah, like not how many people have signed the card.
You want to know eligible? for
Eligible versus
Yeah.
non-eligible, sorry.
I mean, it's roughly, we're looking at about 200 employees. It's roughly 38, I believe, who are ineligible, either because they're management or like HR, for instance.
And of those, they are eligible to organize themselves and negotiate a contract and be have a collective bargaining unit themselves. They're just not eligible for hours because of the power imbalance.
You mean the
management, yeah.
And regarding questions about who is in the bargaining unit and who isn't, we believe this is a perfect example of what can be talked about between your subcommittee and our subcommittee about the collective bargaining policy.
David, in the budget we approved, was it 154 employees?
No, I think the numbers are about right. I don't know.
That's it.
We'd have to check. I think that's about right. It's about the FDP. I think people-wise, including subs, who are around 200. But that doesn't, what we looked at was FTE.
Okay.
And I think probably that's right, about 35 or management level or HR. One of the questions that one of you asked me, and I don't know has been answered, you kind of alluded to it, Steve, is like, if it doesn't preclude, so someone else determines eligibility, right? We don't determine that, you don't determine that, an independent agency, but then once you're eligible, then the ASME card relevant. So nobody who would be eligible could decide they wanted to form a separate union. Is that correct? Like, does it preclude the ability of the 20% that don't want to join or haven't said they're going to join from forming their own union? Does the ASME it's not eligibility in some ways, but it's like, once you're deemed eligible, does the ASME then preclude their ability to collectively bargain another union?
Well, yeah, because, when we win the election, if there's going to be election, we would become the exclusive bargaining agent of all the folks that would be in the bargaining unit, which would be all non-managerial employees. Does that answer?
Yep, that's awesome.
And a collective bargaining policy would also, if management did decide they wanted to unionize as well, a collective bargaining policy would help with that situation. Management is not excluded from this, from what we believe eligibility is because we have any problems with management. It's just simply that we cannot be in the same bargaining unit, but we have no problems with management being in another bargaining unit.
Do you have a typical length of contract you'd be hoping to bargain for?
I think that would be great to hash out at the subcommittee.
And I just know personally, this might be shared by some other folks as well, one of the concerns I've had is looking at some of the other negotiations that are going on in Colorado right now that have turned into multi-year negotiations, which are no fun for anyone involved. Do you have thoughts on kind of how we would avoid that situation?
I think we also agree. So everyone's goal would be to come in good faith and get something hashed out as quickly and as painlessly for everyone. That benefits everyone, because we believe that it will not only benefit staff, it will benefit this board, future boards, management, people who are in the union, people who aren't in the union.
There's a question online. Go ahead, Amy.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Like on that note of, some of the other multi-year negotiations that have been going on with other unions, specifically JCPL, they have some pretty severe grievances about their wages and their benefits. BPLD employees don't seem to have those. So I think, honestly, we could easily find a lot more common ground than JCPL has been able to find with their management, especially because we do love, we love the benefits we have. We do realize that we get paid pretty well compared to other library systems in the state. So I think as long as we can, continue having these meetings and this dialogue and conversations about this stuff, I don't see us having to go as hard as the Jeffco workers have had to go to get anything done at all.
Can you introduce yourself, and do you work for the library or do you work for?
Yes, I do. Sorry. I'm Amy Schrader. I'm one of the cataloging librarians at BPL. I work at Maine.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
The question over here.
Oh, I sort of piggybacks off that pretty well. I mean, my name is Laura. I work here in patron services at the Maine Library.
Can you say your last name too?
It's Nisdo. But if you try to find that in the roster, it's going to be hard. It's spelled HNI to start. So you can ask me again. That's fine. But somebody earlier said that this would be the first kind of union with a library district in the state. And I just feel like that is really appropriate for us as a library because we are sort of a gold standard for libraries. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to work here in the first place. I love my job. I love these locations. I love the people that I work with. I think most of the people in this union feel pretty similarly. And we kind of just want to make sure we can help keep it that way. And if this is another way to keep that gold standard to, set a new path forward for other libraries or to really just be that first great example, I think that's a really amazing thing for us to do. And I, think other people feel similarly.
I don't know if this question can be answered if anyone knows, but like for Jeffco, what percentage of the employees were supportive of the union?
I mean, that's not, I think, appropriate for this.
It's not.
Yeah, we don't really know.
To our situation.
Well, they had a population, it was over 8%,
Okay. Over 8, okay.
I think 83.
It's also organized under a different law because they're county
It's a county library,
so it's a little bit different system.
But it isn't exclusively just library, right? Isn't it Jeffcoat County?
No, it's just.
Just the library.
Okay, okay.
And Denver, I think, also has maybe they're collective bargaining with a union there, but it's a city municipal. You guys talked about, what was it called, the Boulder Municipal Union. BMA. I don't know how familiar you are, if you reviewed that agreement. I mean, what do you guys like about that agreement? Since you said we have this agreement, and then what did you not like about that agreement? If you're willing to talk about that, the city agreement.
I think that too would be good for the subcommittee or for negotiating. The reason that we're saying we liked it is because we had collective bargaining rights. We had the union, so that was the thing that we liked about it, was we were represented, we had, someone who would go to management and speak on our behalf. And as far as like individual things, I don't know what the agreement is now. I couldn't tell you what it was in 2020. Yeah. But we had those rights under the city.
We had a contract and we went to accept.
Yeah, and it was negotiated with employee voices being heard.
Sorry, I have a lot of questions. What percentage of the staff that signed the agreement were employed at the time when they were part of the, previously were part of a union? Like, how many of them actually benefited from that? Or like, how many are new employees? Like, some of you've been here 10 years, so I imagine like you know what it's like, and some people are new, and I'm just trying to understand how many people feel the loss of not being in a union.
We actually don't want to talk about the identities of who signed a card and who hasn't, just in case. Like, we don't have an agreement yet, and we want to keep everybody's confidential until.
I don't think that's the question she's asking, but I think she's asking.
I think it would be, anyone who worked at the library prior to December 31st, 2023 was when we switched over, was part of the NEA.
So I think it was maybe
part of it. So
67 and 70 employees, and probably 40, David, were came over as union employees. That was your question, right?
Yeah, but I'm trying to understand how many of those folks are still employed here, who, and how many of the folks who are wanting to be part of the union actually did not have the union previously. Do you see what I mean?
I see what you mean. I don't know.
You don't know, that's fine, that's fine. I was just curious.
Probably figure out how many current employees were eligible for membership prior to district.
If you have access to employee records, you can see
You can
the
just pull it.
dates.
I just didn't know if you guys knew.
I mean, I will say in the discussions in the summer of 2023, before we moved into the district, and we got our first draft of the employee handbook, which, to Doug's point, we can see that you bent over backwards to give us material improvements when we became the district. There's no question of that, and we are so grateful. I can speak for myself, so grateful. But when we reviewed that first the first draft of the employee handbook, my memory is that I was told by a supervisor that in the supervisor discussion, the number one feedback from staff, the concern that we felt when we were reading that draft was what Cosmo alluded to, or what Cosmo spoke to earlier, which is that the legalese boilerplate language at the front of the handbook says anything in this handbook, except for your at-will employment, may change with or without notice. That's just the boilerplate language that has to exist. And so that doesn't give you much feeling of stability and security in your job if you're reading this awesome handbook that says, hey, you get pet leave, you get grandparent leave, you get this much sick leave, etc. But it can change with or without notice. And you are at-will employees. That was the number one concern reading that draft handbook, and that continues to be. I remember very quickly talking to somebody saying, I feel naked without a union. I remember a staff person who still employs here giving that sentiment, and I think that's still vastly shared across all systems.
I would also add, to that point, we started talking about a union before we even had the handbook. Like, it's not related to specific policies, it's not related to specific grievances. We knew that we were losing it, leaving the city, and we started talking and thinking about how to get those protections back for us and for the new employees who were coming. Like, I remember going to meetings in the first meeting in October 2023, and there were already folks there who are still there, still with us today trying to organize. So it's not a specific pointed thing, it's the broader concept.
Okay.
I will say it also, that was one of the concerns that employees brought up during our initial staff district meeting after the board was formed, I think in July, before we transitioned the employees. And I think most of the board at that time, it's a different board, was supportive of, them pursuing some sort of, union protection. So, myself was included in that. So, but like,
We didn't take any formal action.
but we didn't take any formal action, yeah, and they didn't either.
No.
So, and I think, we may ask a bunch of questions here because we can only get together and talk as a group. And I know the committee form is maybe a little more efficient for knocking out things, but I think just so you understand why you might get these questions, and maybe you can't answer them or can't, but like it's good for everybody to hear them with their own ears versus, Doug or Tom trying to relay, or some one of the board members trying to relay, the telephone game. So sometimes it's better to hear it that way.
Yeah, if I may add, I know it's not always convenient, but it's critical that this board conduct their actions in public. Like three of them can't be in the same party together. Right? So we have to conduct business in public. That's just the bylaws and the state law.
Yeah. So so you may get these questions, and I mean, any union contract that you negotiate will also be a public document as well. So, okay, any more? I don't want, I feel like the conversation's been good. Any more questions or comments or?
I had a question, and I don't know if you know the answer to this yet, but it was out of our last meeting. My memory was maybe it was an exchange between Andy and Kara about kind of like, how we move forward. And Kara said, I like the way you phrased that, like, what would I need to know to be able to make a decision? And I've just been thinking about that. And like with all of us here, is there something more out of this discussion that would feel helpful to hear from us right now that we can answer? I mean, some of that we're like saying, okay, right. But like, what would you need to know to be able to make the next step? Because like to, Cosmo's point, I mean, we can see forward movement, obviously, and we're grateful for that. And just wondering what is needed.
I think this conversation is really helpful. It's helpful to hear from all of you because I think to David's point, we don't get to gather like this that often. And I also think for me, at least, it's partially, some of it's going to be like legal questions. There's just a lot I don't understand still about this law and the lack of case law around it and all of that. So some of it's not about this, some of it's just about understanding like how is this structured and what are the rules and like what are we allowed to do and not allowed to do and all that.
I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot that we don't know yet. So we're still kind of feeling on that.
Yeah. I would say too, like even if the board and it, decides it wants to pursue some path where an employee organization wants to collectively bargain and create a policy, we'll probably run into problems that are, problems for you guys and us, and so we'll have, the policy might be amendable eventually, if we, see that it's, not working in certain areas or not others. I just because nobody's gone through this process before, so you're gonna run into it's great. I mean, obviously, Christine, I think if you told us exactly everything you're looking for, then we would, and we were like, okay with it, we would be like, here, that's fine. So, but it doesn't sound like we're ready to do that. I'm gonna wait till the thing gets over.
La biblioteca se cerrará en 10 minutos. Por favor, concluya sus actividades en la biblioteca y salga del edificio. Gracias.
So I think the board, for me, if I think for myself personally, is, just committing us to financial commitments that will impair, and I don't think that's what you guys want either, but, committing to financial commitments that will impair our ability to provide library services to the residents of the Boulder Library District. We just can't do that, but that's.
Can I take that for a second? Because you brought this up a couple of times, and I think that's a very valid point. Because, we're not going to demand stuff and then just expect to get it. We're going to negotiate. So if we ask for some crazy raise, you're like, well, we can't do that. Okay, we can't do that. We have to agree on a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like giving these folks collective bargaining is going to just automatically ramp up your outlay, because you'd have to agree to it, just like these folks would have to agree to anything you wanted, right? So I don't think it's as an automatic thing as some folks may think, that the union's coming in, we're gonna have to, everybody's making $50 an hour. That's just unattainable. We can get a budget too, right? So we have to negotiate it out, and you would have to agree to it, just like these folks would have to agree to it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Thank you for the specifics of the handbook.
Sure.
That was helpful.
Thank you.
Because that's been part of my frustration with this a little bit. I get your desire. I get the collective power of all that. But our conversations often end up in this kumbaya, we're all gonna have this great library, we wanna keep this great library, which is fine, but then we're gonna spend months doing something over kumbaya. So specifics help in your question. The other is, by my quick little count in here, and I think I counted everybody on staff, not manager, I think there are 42 of you here, which is impressive. So congratulations on that. It's got to be a third of the eligible collective bargaining unit, if not more. So as a trustee, I'm paying attention to that. So.
Been here since 7:30.
That's the collective fear. I at least speak for myself of the board. It's just the financial commitments and running library district. And so, and I take you seriously when you guys say that you want it to be a strong and collective body. So,
Can I just add to that? I think everyone here understands this, but as a board, our commitment first and foremost is to the community that the library serves. The staff is obviously an important part of that community as well, and we appreciate you all being here and hearing their voices as well. But that's part of the trick for us here, right? In some ways, the formation of a union represents a transfer of power from the community and their representatives in our board to staff and their representatives in the union, which may very well be an appropriate transfer of power, but I think we have to be very careful when we balance that and make sure we're not giving anything away that would then potentially be detrimental to the broader community in the long run. So like many things in democracy, there's tension here, right? There's tension between the community and what they want and the staff and what they want. And in a perfect world, we can reconcile these tensions in a way that is amicable for everyone. That would be the goal of the collective bargaining agreement. But that's why we as a board have this obligation to ask these questions and to make sure we are going down a path that will ultimately serve the broader community best and ideally serve staff just as well. So.
Hey, sorry, if one of you is going to go. No, I think we take all these points and understand them, and we think that the way to reconcile these things would be in the negotiations that would be able to proceed once a collective bargaining policy is agreed upon and discussed and voted on by the board. So there are things that we just can't, we don't, like Sylvia said, or Kara, I believe, we don't know about both your and our desires for what this would look like cooperation going forward. So being able to have a collective bargaining policy that allows us to discuss these things.
Thank you.
And it's gonna never noticed how long the pause was.
Put that in the agreement.
So, like I said, the way to both have a discussion about both our desires to serve the community and to serve the board and to serve the staff and everything would be available to be had under the foundation of a collective bargaining policy.
I mean, another thing, you know, we really care about this community. It's why we work here. You saw all the degrees we have. We chose to work here. We care about this stuff too.
So 2 more comments and then we'll probably, unless there's strong feelings.
Good.
I just wanted to speak to Tom's point that there's 40 of us around, which is awesome. And we have also spoken to the percentage of cards that have been signed. And I know, like you mentioned, it's good context for us to know that this was a draft that Tom put together that y'all haven't even discussed together yet. But item 2, employees decide through a secret ballot election. I just want to compare that to the draft that we offered to y'all, section 2, item D, which gives the opportunity for you to voluntarily recognize us and don't need the process of a timely election that could cost all of us time and energy, and is that really worthwhile with tax dollars on y'all's end or our dollars? When we have done the work for the last couple of years, we have organized ourselves, 40 of us have showed up. You do have the opportunity to voluntarily recognize us and not go through an election process.
Yeah, really quick, I just feel like at the end of the day, maybe to close this out, we are librarians. And I think that at the basis of our job is a certain balance of idealism and practicality. So while there may be some kumbaya moments here, I think that we also are very familiar with being pragmatic and going through processes. So we're aware of what this may take and, you know, that side of things as well. And we're willing to work through it.
And I think we have one thing we'd like to ask you to consider for this meeting is if you will set up another meeting with our subcommittee and your subcommittee to discuss some of the more thorny, or not thorny, but minutia of the policy discussions, the drafts, what we have given you and what Tom has drafted, and if there are points between them that we might agree on and where the disagreements lie, we think the subcommittee would be great for having those discussions. And we would like to ask you to consider setting up and contacting us for another meeting of that type.
Thank you. Did you write on yours? Did you make copies of it for the board?
Of this one?
Yeah.
I can leave this one with you. It is pink. It
sent it out, but I don't have a paper copy of it. Okay, here, can you hand it to me?
It is in the record.
Yeah, we have it. We have copies of it. Can you just make a photocopy for everybody? Yeah, I wanted to include that with
It's for their pigs.
Okay, well, thank you. I will say that concludes our sort of public discussion. You know, the next part of the meeting is discussion of the policy, and I think we've already been pretty clear as a board. You know, and so I'll start off with part 3 of this meeting, I guess. And you know, I don't think the board was super I'll speak for myself, was super jazzed by the October 21st policy. I think the framework is probably something we should consider, how it's different parts. And they have it color coded, which I think is going to be good. Let me just finish that. And then, close.
Atención, la biblioteca está cerrada. Gracias por acompañarnos hoy y esperamos verlos nuevamente.
My big beef was that I didn't really want to submit us to, and I think we shared this, to outside, courts or arbitrators, that would usurp the power of the board. I think that was some of the steps in there. Go ahead, Tom.
We keep juggling these two documents and they're two different purposes. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I think rather, if we were gonna move to item 3, policy document, I'd make a motion that we table that until we've adopted a policy ourselves on how we want to address collective bargaining in a generic sense. So that's what I was trying to write in this. We need a policy as a board that stands like all the other policies that you guys worked hard to create before I got here. It moves through time because we're not always going to be the board. And we need to decide for ourselves what we see about collective bargaining before we start giving feedback with the word proposal.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah, I think when they first came to us, they were asking us to make to adopt that.
Christine just asked.
Yeah.
I get that.
Right, which was to adopt that policy.
Adopt that policy.
But I don't think as a board, we can take a vote, but I don't think there's going to be. There's not the vote for it. I don't think. I don't hear that. So I think we, table that and use it. The October 21st policy document, and then So I think the next question, moving on to part 4, would be, I'm looking for the board's discussion on, A, do you want to collectively bargain with an employee organization? And if your answer is, and no, never, then that kind of, that kind of precludes discussion. We need to work on the policy, or other boards can bring it up. If your answer is, hey, I kind of think we should pursue this, then and maybe create a policy like the one you proposed or put forward as a proposal, then we'll go on and learn about that. And then the next question is, okay, what kind of parts should that have? And what do you want it to include? And you gave some suggestions in your document. So I don't know, we can go around and talk about that. Go ahead.
I don't think we're ready to make that. That's a big decision.
Yeah.
That first question is huge.
Right.
And I don't think we're in a position to make that decision individually.
Okay.
I personally have I want to know the legal piece first.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry that I'm not ready to answer that first question.
Okay.
No, but I think that you're correct. That is the decision tree. Sure. That it's, as a board, are we willing ever, under any circumstances, to collectively bargain? If so, what would that have to look like? And then that gets laid out in the policy, which will then govern the board going forward with this and any other unionizing effort in the future. And so I think that's the tree. But yeah, I don't know.
But if you worded it negatively, so they would be more amenable. Are you not willing to consider some pathway forward to potentially collective bargaining?
I am, but I don't want to have anyone in this room assume that because I am, that I'm going to end up on that side when I learn all the information that I need to learn. And I see people nodding their heads.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that I'm opposed, but I don't have all the little pieces. I'm a lawyer. I gotta have all those little details. I read the fine print. I need to know what the fine print says.
You mean, when you say, you mean the legal question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you don't necessarily mean the fine print of a policy.
No, well, I mean,
Well,
we're not there, Matt, but I mean, I don't know that we should, yeah, we're not there.
We have to learn the law first.
Okay. Anybody else? Everybody else?
I mean, I don't think we're voting on anything formally
No.
tonight. To Sylvia's point, I mean, maybe Doug, what you're looking more for is just a nod that folks are comfortable continuing this conversation and, not just saying outright, we will never collectively bargain with any union on principle.
I mean, yeah, that would save them some time and maybe drive the decisions for them, but yeah, I mean, I think, if you're kind of like, hey, let's keep pursuing this road, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I think.
But that's not what you said, that's not how you describe it.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to clarify that.
Okay.
That's different than what you were saying earlier.
Well, it's been amended.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on that basis, and we can go around too, because I'd like to hear from everyone, but I mean, where I'm personally at is, I do think it's productive for us to continue the conversation. I do think, to Sylvia's point, there's a list of legal questions we also need to answer, which will be our discussion for the executive session. And I would hope that we're in a position by early next year to make a decision formally on an actual policy one way or another. I think if unionization and collective bargaining is something the employees want, it's something we have a duty to consider. And then the question is just going to be what the contours of that consideration look like, which is where all the nitty gritty details are going to come up.
Yeah, and I think part of this is that, and like I said, we have to understand like what can a policy look like, what can collective bargaining look like, and I think there's a world where we come back and we've done all this research and we get all the advice that we need from our legal counsel, and the staff who wants to unionize doesn't like that. And then maybe it changes the contours of the conversation. Because if it's like what we are able to do is maybe not what they thought, or there's just a lot of unknowns. So we just need to make sure we all have a really firm grasp of what does this look like in the future before, and then we can decide if it makes sense on both sides.
And I think that is evidence of good faith. I think that's us trying to make sure it gets done right, right? Because if we go all this way and we seem like we're in lockstep and then suddenly realize, oh no, we're not actually allowed to do that, well then that's gonna take us all the way back. So we might as well just take the time and do it right. And by saying that, I don't mean, months and months and months. Let's.
I appreciate what you said. When you said, because we are first, we're gonna be finding answers and we're just asking questions. And it's not a secret. I believe in collective bargaining. We got 42 people here, and they say they have 80% of the cards signed. It'd be really hard to say no to that. Well, they didn't put me on the board. I'm on the board to represent the community and the taxpayers. And we've got to figure out that it's something that's doable and under Tabor and under all these things, which is one of the caveats I was trying to put into that document for us to start looking at and thinking about. They're there. I mean, when Doug and I met with Sean and Karen and the team, their team, he pointed out, like for us, he was speaking for himself and his interpretation of us, and I heard, which is for us to move forward, we were going to need to know more specifics as to what the areas were, and that's, doing a little research is why I came up with the document I did. So these are the areas where we would be willing, and these are clearly the areas where we would not be willing to engage. Right? You called it a term sheet.
I called it a term sheet.
You called it a term sheet. And I think that is part of where we're going to go. It's like we're going to have to create that. And to your point, it may not be the terms that they're looking for, but it may be the limits of where we can go.
Right.
So.
Benita or Nadine, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
I'm going to give you. Okay.
Thanks.
Nadine or?
No.
Okay. I'm with Andy. I think I'd like to continue this conversation and see what kind of constraints we're on and understand the legal. I'm more in the boat with Tom and I also believe in that. And I mean, my personal belief is like, I would like to get back to library business and not that this isn't library business, but you know, other things that relate to running a library district. So in my thing is, you know, having this done quicker rather than later would be a better thing in my book. And if we have staff that wants to do this and it's the names, I will say that like I think in any policy or anything that we do create, I think it's going to have a vote only because as a board, when we're talking about this, you know, I don't think it'd be a good precedent for the board to recognize any employee organization that came and wanted to collectively bargain without a significant number of the staff members. Only because, you know, 5 other people could break off and say, we want to join a different faction and we want you to recognize us. And you already did the ASME group, so do us. And so, and you know, it's got to be something that you want, right? And that you're willing to put your vote behind. So, yeah, so that'd be my only thing. And so so I don't think there's anything for us to pursue. I mean, what else?
I think the one ask that was tangible that we could act on was, do we want to continue to have you and Tom meet with them? Do other people want to get involved? Just for the room, we're limited to having 2 people involved at a time because of public record and public meeting rules. So I guess the question is, A, is the board comfortable continuing to meet with their subcommittee, and B, who from our board wants to do that?
And I'll continue to do it if you guys want me to, and with Tom.
Does anyone else?
I'm fine with the 2 of you continuing, but I want you to remember who you're there for, because you both just said things that make me go, are you the right people to be doing this?
I mean, I wonder about a rotation of board members.
That's fine too.
It might be a healthier, more neutral way to.
You have the time to push it for one of them?
Yeah, but I mean, I would do that. I mean,
that'd be great.
You know, with somebody else, you know, but I just think it would keep the conversations fresh.
Well, I worry about that too. I don't want to, you know, gatekeep.
Yeah.
I get that. And I'm honest putting it on the room.
No, I'm glad, I appreciate that.
And I also think that I don't see the need to go have a subcommittee meeting until we figure out ourselves.
Yeah.
Given the volunteers, the amount of time we have to put into this, for volunteer board, we need to figure out our piece of this. And then out of that, we may decide that the next step for us as a board is to take the subcommittee and re-engage with Mallory, Karen, and Christine and others.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It wouldn't make sense to meet next week necessarily, but I do think we could be to a point in the next month where it would make sense to meet again.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So would our committee be Benita and?
Benita, Tom, or Benita, me, or?
Whoever, I just think, you know,
we'll do it.
Obviously depends on when that date is that you.
Or Kara, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, we can, I like the idea of it maybe not always being the same 2 people.
Yeah.
I think rotating's good. We might want to rotate one person at a time to provide a tiny bit of continuity.
Right, but we can, like you said, we can see when it makes sense to have a meeting, pick 2 people.
Plus,
I'm not a lawyer.
Nadine as well, because, you know.
I am not the lawyer. Just the marketer.
I'm with you.
So me and Benita, the next one, and then
Keep
I'll,
rotating.
and
Yeah.
then we'll go from there, and but it'd probably be in January, my guess is, because we want to, you know.
So it's going to be a multi-year negotiation.
Well,
Well, we have
so, but yeah, I think like.
Before your term ends.
Yeah, I think like to get the experience as well, both for people. Yeah,
We're getting paired up with a lawyer for you?
we'll pair you up with a
I think we can make that happen. That's very possible.
50% chance.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else?
I have a quick announcement that's not related that can wait, but I want to read it.
Oh, okay, well, hold on for a second. Okay, this is our time to get together, so it's hard to, do we want to go over Tom's thing, or are we can talk about it?
Let's move to executive session.
Okay.
Get the legal questions answered.
Okay, yeah, there would be, Christine, go ahead with your announcement.
Just as my volunteer coordinator hat, I just want to let you know and remind you and invite you that in this room on Friday at 10 o'clock, we're having a library coffee hour. All of you are invited. We're very grateful for your work as volunteers. From 10 to 11:30. We'll have a coffee hour. It'll also be during our year-end youth book sale. If you want to come by, step up.
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds, sorry, I was gonna put that on my. No, since we're still, so we have to make a motion, so I'm gonna read this, okay? So, and then, we'll kick folks out that aren't part of the board or our attorneys or our confidential employees, I suppose. And then, you're welcome to stick out there until we're done, and then you can come back in. But I don't think we'll take any action. But we can't take any in executive. But when we come back, we won't. So you wanted to go.
I move that we go into executive
All right,
session as allowed by 24-6-402, 4B and E and I of the Colorado Revised Statute for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific questions determining positions related to matters that are subject to negotiation, develop and instruct any of our negotiators concerning Colorado and federal labor law and processes for employee unionization.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.